everybody, and welcome to this weekly update with myself, Sarah Lean. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody that watches these videos, that likes them, that comments and has subscribed to my YouTube channel. It really does help me keep motivated to creating this content, and also when you like and comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel, it helps the YouTube algorithms push up my content to newer viewers and suggest it to them as well. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel, and any comments, feedback, likes would be really appreciated on this video as well. Now, in terms of Azure news, I want to cover off 3 things that have been happening this week. Now, the first is something we actually talked about last week. So Azure Blob Storage versioning has now went generally available. Now, the versioning capability within the Blob Storage is automatically creating a version or a snapshot of your files, so that if something happens, if you overwrite something, you delete something, if an application interacts with something and erroneously writes over that version of the file, you've got other versions that you can pull back and make live again, and that is just a great feature to save you having to invoke your backups, having to dig out whatever backup you had and restore all of that. So the versioning helps you be a bit more proactive and a bit more interactive with that as well. And if you watched last week's video, you'll remember that I spoke about how AZ Copy now has the ability to interact with those different versions of files from that command line. And I'm actually still working on that blog around that, so it should be out next week if I can find a slot in our blog calendar. But yeah, that's now generally available, that versioning within Blob Storage, so it's fully supported within your production environments. Now, the second bit of news is in terms of Azure cost management. Now, a lot of customers are running hybrid clouds. They're running some services in AWS and some in Azure, and maybe some in other clouds as well. And a lot of customers are loving the functionality we have in Azure cost management to help them manage their budgets, keep an eye on costs, monitor what's happening, etc. And what we now have is an AWS connector. So you can now pull in your data, your billing data from AWS into Azure cost management and look at it from there and manage it from there, which is great because, let's face it, multi-cloud is amazing, but it also introduces extra tools, sometimes duplicate tools, and if we can make that back down to one tool, then it makes our lives a lot easier for monitoring the costs. So you can bring in your AWS billing data into Azure Cost Management and monitor it from there. Now, the third bit of news that I want to cover is really just a roundup of what's been happening with Azure Security Center last month in August. So the team have released a blog around all of the functionality and features that they've been working on. So there's things like consolidated policies and recommendations. They've got different asset views, which are in preview, so you can have a look at your asset management. And there's a few other things as well. So I'll post a link to that and definitely check that out and see what the team have been working on in August. Another thing to shout out about is the Azure security team are doing a bunch of webinars over the next 4 or 5 weeks around different topics, things from how to configure Azure Security Center right into things about just general cyber security that you should be thinking about in your environment. And we're sharing some of our knowledge with you in order to help you improve your security posture. So I will post a link to those webinars will be live or they'll be recorded, so you can definitely check them out if they don't match your time zone or if you can't match it just being there live with the team. But yeah, definitely something to check out, as the security team are giving up their time to share some knowledge, so definitely take advantage of that as well. Now, in terms of my own personal news, I've been busy creating some content. I've got a presentation next week to deliver internally to some people around remote presentations and how to do that successfully and what to do if it goes wrong. And I'm looking forward to actually sharing that, because as a few of you know, I've just spent the last 3 or 4 months speaking at a bunch of user groups remotely from this very, very spot that I'm standing in right now. And I've learnt a lot from all of those experiences, so it'd be great to share some of that back with other people and help them get used to this remote presentation that we are in at the moment. I've also, like I said, been creating blogs. I've got that one coming out at AZ Copy and versioning as well. And yeah, there's a few other blogs that I'm working on as well, just trying to get them created as well. So lots happening. The other thing that I actually completed this week was a project I've been working on for quite a while. So a while ago, probably a year, maybe 2 years ago, I created this map resource where people could go and have a look and find a local Azure user group to them. And now the map was a great feature for a lot of people who were trying to find their local Azure user group, or even for people who didn't know there wasn't an Azure user group in the region and they've went off and created them. Now, the only problem I had with this map resource was that it was very manual in terms of me updating it, and it relied on me having to update it all the time. So I created the list based on user groups that I knew about, and then other people told me about them either through Twitter, email. I even had a form for people to fill in at one point, and it was a bit manual. It was a bit time consuming. It wasn't a great feature. There was a lot of things I wanted to do on top of it but couldn't. What I've now done is completely changed it. So I've dabbled in Hugo, which is a blogging platform, and I've created a website with all the user groups that were on that map now in this website. And with it being hosted on Hugo is now on top of GitHub, so all my source code is in GitHub. The hope is that it'll be open source. Other people will be able to interact with it, correct it, even make some design changes, because I haven't really done much to the design. I've kept it very basic. So I'm hoping that it'll be more collaborative and it'll be easier to maintain, although I will have to merge everybody's information into the main repository. Hopefully over time it will grow as a better resource. Now, I'm aware that if you go to meetup.com, and I think it's /Azure Tech Communities, you can see a list of all the meetups within Azure, all the meetups within Meetup that are related to Azure, and I think there's over 200 on there. The only problem I have with that is that not every user group uses Meetup. We don't, at the Glasgow Azure user group, we use Eventbrite for our ticketing. I know there's other user groups that use different platforms. Some people don't even use Meetup or Eventbrite to advertise their meetups because they're held on things like YouTube, etc. So So yeah, that meetup page is really useful to find the meetup ones, but it's not inclusive of those user groups that aren't using Meetup. So my resource is inclusive of everybody, whether it's a website, whether it's just a Twitter account you have, whether it's a Meetup, whether it's Eventbrite, whether it's ticketing, whatever that may be. We list your user group and we're happy to do that. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. Like I said, if I've missed any user groups, if there's new user groups being formed, if information's incorrect, the code is all in GitHub. You can either raise an issue and I'll correct it, or you can use the pull request functionality to add it on. So yeah, that's kind of been my week, and I'm hoping that resource will grow, as I said. So I'm away to get a coffee now, so I've got some more blog content to write and complete off, so need some coffee to try and fuel me on to do that. But I hope you have a good one, and I will catch you next week.